Okay. Wow. This is amazing. Episode 5, let's go. Wow. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, man. All right. Wow, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. Episode 5, pretty special one today, bit of a milestone, so I went ahead and rented out the Rogers Stadium today. I just want to say, episode 5, thank you so much to everyone who has supported this podcast so far. We've got some great things coming today, as well as in the future. I'm so looking forward to it. We're about to hit 100 streams, which means someone has pressed play on this podcast 100 times. Not one person, could be a lot of people, I don't know, but that's still crazy to think about, and I'm just so grateful for this opportunity, and I just want to thank everyone who has supported me so far. It means the world. On today's episode, we have Laura Thomas, who goes by the media handle RECWITHLAURA. Please go ahead and send her a follow her wellness journey. Laura discusses her passion for recreation therapy as well as some techniques she uses to help her own mental health. This chat was super informative and super professional as well. I really appreciate Laura taking the time to come on here today and chat with me about these things. For the first time ever on the podcast, this is a Sunday special, so get relaxed. Put a nice silk robe on, get a nice warm drink, maybe a couple Tim Tams, and enjoy this wonderful conversation. I'm so excited for you all to hear it. Thank you for listening. That's a little inside joke for the people who have told me that. I always say thanks for watching, even though you're not actually watching this. You are listening to this. So I learned from my mistakes. Here we go. Thanks for listening. Here is Laura Thomas. How are you doing today?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. Like I said, a little bit tired today, but we're doing pretty well. Just want to make sure we're going good. Yeah, so your handle RECWITHLAURA.
Yes, that's me.
You are a recreation therapist.
I am, yeah.
So before we jump into that, why don't you go ahead and tell the listener a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess for starters, I'm Laura. And as you said, I am a recreational therapist. Originally from Hamilton, but actually living in Mississauga, Ontario right now. More than that, though, specifically, I work as a peer social recreation worker with an organization that supports adults and older adults with mental illnesses and addictions. My role as a peer specialist actually gives me the opportunity to share about my own mental health challenges with folks in combination with recreation. And if you ask me, that's kind of the best of both worlds.
Right, yeah.
Prior to this, I actually worked with older adults and seniors at an adult day program. I've been in the field for about 4 years or so. And I absolutely love what I do. As far as I looked at it, I've never worked a day in my life since. So
That's amazing.
I'm also a full-time student doing my bachelor's at Brock.
Shout out Brock University, right? I just finished my undergraduate degree in kinesiology with a minor in dramatic arts.
That's amazing.
I do want to say, though, I think it's really cool that you are working with older adults and elderly. You said seniors, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty mixed population right now. I think our youngest clients in their 40s, all the way up into, I think, 70s and 80s. So it's a pretty big gap.
I think it's really good that you're bringing awareness to their mental health as well, because I feel like, sort of not to sort of group everyone together, but their sort of generation doesn't really talk about it as much, I find.
Yeah.
Would
absolutely.
you agree?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of topics that come up in our programs that some of them are they're difficult to talk about because they weren't addressed when they were kids and growing up, and
Yes.
Those can be kind of challenging topics to work through.
They definitely didn't have the resources that we may have now, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's good. You're doing something that's really beneficial for the world. So I've learned from your media that defining recreation therapy can be sort of hard when you're just asked, simply, what is it? Like, what is recreation therapy? So instead, tell me about the benefits of recreation and why it's important to people.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. I struggled with my elevator pitch per se in the past, not really being sure how to describe what I do because a lot of people don't really know anything about it. And there's always kind of the fear that I would do the profession like a disservice by talking about the games that we play. which, if you know, recreation therapy is so much more than fun and games, but from somebody on the outside, that's kind of what it looks like.
Right.
So kind of I would say over the last year, I've really learned better ways of describing what recreation therapy is and confidently explaining it in simple terms. Funny enough, I generally started off by answering the "what is recreation therapy" question with a question like, well, what activity would you do today given the chance to do whatever was going to bring you the most freedom, happiness, and restorativeness, right?
Okay, can we do that? I'd probably play my keyboard.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So most people would respond with something along the lines of like hiking or, being with their pets or playing their favorite instrument or sport. And then, you would go on to explain how many or how making the time to engage in, activities that are meaningful and important is what we kind of do to support people. And sometimes people don't really know what they enjoy. And that's the best part about recreation therapy, is helping people discover what they actually really enjoy doing and what's meaningful to them, because for everybody it's something different, right?
Absolutely. I think it's great that you're advocating and you're giving that in depth of a description of what it is, because you're right. I feel like a lot of people don't know it. So it's good that you're bringing awareness to that sort of industry.
Yeah. And I mean, from the outside, it's so, sometimes it's challenging to see what the real benefits of it are, and if you're in the field, then you kind of understand from an outside perspective that it's hard to see what we're actually doing. It's more than games. It's bringing in improvement in mood and physical ability and stress relief. And there's so many feel good chemicals in pursuing what we love doing.
Absolutely. I feel like I sort of do relate to you in the sense of like, with kinesiology, for example, they're just like, oh, so you're going to be a chiropractor. Or oh, you're going to work with athletes, right? Well, I'm like, well, no, not necessarily, because I chose kinesiology because it opens so many doors. I've taken courses that could allow me to be a teacher. I've taken mental health courses. It's something that I'm most passionate about, mental health, but that's also, a topic for another day. But I do get what you mean, where it's like one program. And I feel like it's the same with something like sport management, right? So it's like, oh, you're going to be the next Kyle Dubas because he's the manager of the Leafs and he graduated from Brock. So a lot of people sort of get pigeonholed into one sort of category, right? Which I don't think that's very fair, but I do sort of know where you're coming from.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure.
So where did you get the passion about the field of rec therapy? Like, what made you want to join this world?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. So my passion story actually fell into one of the probably lowest parts of my life. So before I got into recreation therapy, I was actually in school for massage therapy. Okay. I loved the idea of making people feel good and helping them feel better. But honestly, at the time, my mental health took a huge dip, and I just couldn't handle the science behind the studies, which kudos to you for being able to do with kinesiology.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy at all.
Yeah, not at all. So yeah, I really couldn't handle it, and I ended up dropping out. And at the time I moved out when I was 15 years old. I moved in with my mom.
Okay.
And then I think I was around 17 when I had my own place. So, yeah, by the time I had dropped out of college, I was working full time and living alone, and just kind of barely making rent every month working at this laser tag arena.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. And I had been there a few years and really just felt so awful about myself because I lived the college dropout blues every day, you know? Right. One day I was working and we had this young boy and his mom come in to book a birthday party. For the sake of his confidentiality, I'll call him Simon. Okay. Simon had a number of different disabilities and he wanted to plan a birthday party for himself and his friends who also had disabilities. So I ended up being able to take on his birthday party and make all of the accommodations. And it was really my first opportunity to spend time working as their hostess and, just making sure everybody was safe and okay in the arena.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it lit this spark in me. And I just knew that I wanted to feel that passionate and that useful and that caring every single day. And at the end of his party, Simon gave me this like little tin can of candies wrapped up in this really nice like wrapping paper as a thank you. And I just like I nearly jumped over the counter and hugged him. Like it was just such a sweet monumental moment. And yeah, I still have the wrapping paper to this day. So
No way.
yeah.
That's a really kind story. I mean, I really appreciate you sharing that with me. That's really cool.
Yeah. I guess to answer your question in simple terms, it's stories like that every day that kind of keep that passion and
Right.
you know, kind of make me want to keep doing this.
So your calling was basically to help people.
Yeah.
You didn't entirely, I'm getting from the fact you didn't entirely know what that was until you sort of had that moment with Simon.
Yeah, definitely. Like I had aspects of the massage therapy courses that were, you know, we had a lot of hydrotherapy courses and, you know, there was some mental health stuff in there too. And I just loved all of the holistic aspects of massage therapy. It was just the kinesiology that.
Wow. Fair enough.
It was tough, especially with like mental health and working full time, you know, the whole time. So yeah.
Well, because with massage therapy, you have to learn about all the muscles and joints, right?
You bet. Yeah.
Oh my God. It's so hard. It's genuinely so tough. I was good with bones, not so much with muscles. But no, like I said, that's a really, really amazing story. Thank you for sharing that. And I sort of relate to that again as well. I mean, I've known my whole life that I was born, put on this earth to help other people. I just didn't really know where that was going to come from. And it took me struggling mentally to really understand that that's what I needed to do. And I feel like, you know, as much as I've suffered through the years, and especially during the pandemic mentally, I've sort of now come on the other side, and it's made me more motivated than ever to help other people who are also struggling mentally. But I do want to clarify, I'm not a professional. This is just a place to talk about it and open the discussion surrounding mental health and well-being and to spread some positivity. So you do not have to share anything you're not comfortable sharing, but I really do appreciate you sharing that story, Laura.
Yeah, definitely. I think it takes a lot, you know, when we go through awful experiences or we really struggle with our own stuff, it makes us want to do better for others, right? So that they can, you know, not feel how we felt.
Absolutely. So bringing it back to rec therapy, what sorts of facilities can you work in with rec therapy?
Honestly, everywhere, I guess, is just kind of to put it blunt. So the best part about rec therapy, I think, is the ability to do so much with it. Like depending on whether you decide to take community rec therapy or therapeutic recreation, whatever pathway you decide to take with it, the opportunities are really endless. There's so much opportunity to work with different populations. Like, you know, I spoke about children. You can work with seniors or older adults. You can work with teenagers. You can work with veterans. You can work within mental health. You can even work in the wilderness. There's some really, really amazing companies towards BC and Canada. They do a lot of like outdoor wilderness trips for people in different mobilities. And yeah, it's really, really amazing. I would encourage everyone to look into that if you can. You know, you can work within the community and legislation and parks. And there's such a need for recreation in all areas of the job. You know, hospitals, adult day programs. I believe you can even work in schools. You know, it's really about what you make of it and what you're passionate about, and you kind of just lead with you just lead with your passion and see where you can end up with it.
I mean, and I'll be honest, I think there's more of a need for this sort of job now more than ever.
Yeah, absolutely, especially during the pandemic, right? A lot of people didn't know what to do with themselves when they were kind of locked in or had little little resources out in the community to do. So
the pandemic, honestly, that's when we really sort of had to find recreation, because it's like, what the hell were we doing all day, right? We needed to sort of pick up hobbies and stuff, even like a lot of therapeutic activities. Like I know a lot of people took up meditation, for example. So there was a lot of things we had to start doing as humans to sort of, you know, stay ourselves.
Yeah, keep yourself sane, right?
Right. So I didn't know that actually you really could. That's really interesting that you could just basically, you can find recreation anywhere, really. With every job, it depends on the job market, of course. There is certain limitations and, you know, you have to have some education. But for the most part, like I would say that the opportunities to find something that you love it's out there. And do you think this is something you would like to start your own business? Because I know you have your your media as Rec with Laura, but is this something that you're going to develop into your own business, or are you not too sure yet?
Yeah, so it's funny enough you say that, because during the pandemic, I kind of developed a business plan to start care packages for seniors and older adults, and with activities and, things that they loved in it. And I developed kind of like a baseline business idea. I didn't end up going through with it just because, life got in the way, but it's kind of something I've always had on the back burner, is starting up my own program or my own service like that. So, the need is out there to bring recreation to populations that really need it. So,
like, yeah, we touched a little bit earlier about how the fact like adults and seniors would need it as well, because they've sort of gone their whole lives for the most part without having those sort of resources. So I think that's really great that you're bringing that attention towards them.
And there's so much isolation, I mean, among everybody, but, especially with seniors that live alone during the pandemic. It was really, really awful.
So do you take what you've learned from rec therapy, like relating this back to you, do you take what you've learned and apply it to your own life to benefit your mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. I can see how, we were talking about the pandemic. I can see my mental health start to fall apart when I stopped taking care of myself, right?
Yeah.
Part of my own self-care includes practicing my own recreation therapy, right? I've had to learn a lot of patience with myself and learning to love activities, even if I'm bad at them. It's a difficult practice, what I preach per se, because it's hard to get over that initial imposter syndrome, right? You want to be so good at everything. And it doesn't always work that way. So I have had to be really mindful of keeping up with my own rec therapy and doing what I love too, even if I'm not, necessarily per se good at it. I know how good I feel after I do my own work. And I think it's because I know the benefits of rec therapy so personally, and I've seen it in my own mental health.
So did you have a favorite activity that you like to engage in? Like, what was that thing for you that helped you through all those times?
Yeah, so my go-to therapy, rec therapy, is always being in nature and hiking and walking.
Oh, okay.
Just being completely submerged in the trees is my happy place. It's so neat, actually, because I just finished this course on tree bathing.
Oh.
And have you heard of that before?
No, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah, you should definitely look into it. It's there's a ton of research on it. Actually started in Japan. But yeah, I had to go out into the woods so much more recently for it. And it was just so amazing and so restorative.
Wait, so you're actually into skiing, right? I saw that from your social media.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story, actually. So I was talking about the imposter syndrome and like not wanting to do things because I wasn't good at it.
Yes.
The first time I ever tried skiing, I rolled down the hill multiple times. I just got surpassed by little kids, like asking me if I was okay multiple times. It was awful. And then the second time that we went, my boyfriend dragged me out because he was determined to teach me how to play or how to ski.
Is he a good skier?
He was better than I was, right? So
that's good.
and we ended up doing lessons, actually, and I was able to properly learn. And now I love it. So it's just kind of goes to say, like, practice makes perfect, I guess, and also to
Absolutely.
Not quit right when you're just getting started and might not be that good at it.
Have you tried snowboarding?
No, I haven't. It's kind of on my next to-do list.
Fair enough. On the bucket list of recreational activities, you got to do snowboarding next.
Yes, have to try everything once at least.
Oh, absolutely. I love it. I'd love to try it. I've never actually tried either of those things. I can't skate either, so I'm doing good for myself.
Yeah, skating is hard, honestly.
It is. It very much is. Yeah, I'm the British kid, comes to Canada, gets my citizenship, but can't skate, right? So I didn't pass that test.
Yeah.
It's all good. So you're getting firsthand experience helping others in a professional field. What is that like, developing bonds with the people you help? Like, do you find yourself getting attached to your patients? Like, I know you talk to seniors, right, who they're very kind for the most part. So do you find that sort of attachments there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's natural to develop attachments with patients or clients. We develop such intimate relationships with them and, in caring for them. And in my experience, especially, especially now with the peer role, these relationships are so deeply rooted in that foundation of trust and mutual respect. So it's definitely hard. And you spoke about seniors, and I recently left my last job that was primarily with seniors.
Okay.
It was so hard because I felt like I was saying goodbye to over 40 of my grandparents and friends.
No, yeah.
Yeah, it was difficult, especially, if one of them had passed away or moves away. It's definitely, it's difficult not to form, those deep connections.
Because it's, sorry to interrupt, but it's a little bit different than someone like a nurse, right? Because I know they care for them as well, but they're more so just, around the clock sort of helping them to whatever they need. But I feel like with recreational therapy, you do get much more of a sort of intimate connection, right? Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you see these people every day, and specifically in my role that I have now, like some of these people are telling me just some of the, the hardest parts of their lives, and you just form those connections, right? But there's a lot of things I constantly remind myself on, like, attachment and boundaries. But I think I can speak for a lot of us when I say it's obviously easier said than done.
Of course.
The best way to think about it is you're leaving and ending the relationship with them because your job is finished, right? And I think there's a lot of pride in that. We're not meant to be lifelong professionals in people's lives. And unfortunately, it's tough, but we also create those lifelong memories with them for sure too.
That's good. Now I'm trying to relate to that too. I mean, I guess looking at it from the job perspective, I'm a very sentimental person. I get that way sort of around leaving coworkers that I really like. But to be honest, I haven't really had that point in my life yet where I haven't really worked around seniors. I haven't really entered the workforce as of yet. So I've yet to have that sort of experience. But I definitely do think that if I did work in a job that was sort of patient orientated, then I feel like I would struggle with that a lot more, sort of letting go to those sort of patients.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. It's hard for sure.
For example, like my girlfriend was a childcare. She worked at a daycare, right? So, and she recently just quit that job as well. And she always says, "Oh, I miss this person and I miss this little guy," right? Sort of thing. Because they sort of have favorites. I know you're not supposed to technically, but it's hard.
Everybody has favorites.
Oh yeah. Yeah, but no, she's definitely gone through that sort of sadness of leaving the kiddos.
Yeah, like I said, you just kind of have to keep thinking about, like, my work here is finished kind of thing, and that's the best mentality to have is just to help save yourself some of the heartbreak, because it is tough for sure.
Just onward and upwards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. So a pretty good quote, actually, which brings me to my next question. A quote on your social media really caught my attention. A couple I like to sort of, how I title these episodes is I will name it sort of like a quote, and then I'll be like featuring whoever the guest is. So I'd like to title this "Dignity is Power" because it really caught my eye on your social media. So I was wondering if you could unpack that quote for me. Dignity is power.
Yeah, absolutely. I speak a lot about dignity, and I spoke a lot about dignity in my podcast with Adriana from Cultivate the Moments. I am super passionate about providing dignified care. I've had a ton of experience in my, the last 4 years, both personally and professionally, where, clients or individuals with varying disabilities have been kind of treated like children. It's one thing my previous supervisor, Bev, instilled in me, is to always guide with dignity.
Okay.
Dignity, like you said, really is power. We all deserve to be treated as we are. You can provide someone hands-on care, like eating or assisting with meals, and still treat them like an adult.
Of course.
Unfortunately, I've seen a lot of things in my experience that have been really upsetting, like programs geared for children provided to seniors, baby talking, speaking to caregivers instead of the client.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I could speak on this for hours, but it really does come down to treating those that we support how we would want to be treated. I'm so grateful for Bev's guidance on this, because I really think it was instrumental to me when I was just getting started in rec. So it's something they teach in school, but you really don't see it until you see it.
That's really interesting. Yeah. It's a lot of things that I overlook and I don't really think about, because it's like you mentioned there, sort of talking to the caregiver instead of the patient. Like that must feel awful to the patient.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're sitting there, they can
Yeah.
hear you, they can see you, you
You
know.
can't even address them, right? So giving them that dignity, sort of the golden rule, treating others as you would expect to be treated yourself.
Yeah. And I mean, language is really, really powerful too. Like, it, it makes a big difference. It makes a really big difference, the way that you talk to people and the way that you talk about them. You know, using a lot of that person first language and coming from that strength-based approach. You know, it's all stuff that you learn in school, but you know, it's important. It's really, really important.
That's amazing. Yeah, I really appreciate you sort of unpacking that for me, and especially giving it in the context of a patient to caregiver relationship. I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what advice can you give to someone listening that wants to pursue a career in recreation therapy?
Yeah, my main piece of advice would be to really find your flame and run with it. You know, I spoke about Simon and how that made a huge impact on my path in life. You really have to develop a deep relationship with your passion. And you know, this field is not necessarily about the money. It's about your, you know, finding the care and the compassion and the true desire to make a difference in somebody's life, because you can. You know, we all hold the ability to make a ripple in someone else's life, and we have such an incredible opportunity to do it in this field in so many different ways. And you know, our opportunities start with the relationship that we build with ourselves and our own connection to recreation therapy. So it really all leads back to that.
And remaining consistent.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you said, taking your flame and running with it.
Yeah.
That's super important. Yeah, super important with anything. I find that even with this podcast as well, it's important just to talk to as many people as I can. I want to get as many perspectives as possible. And this has been really informative. So I really just want to thank you for sharing all these words you had today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was such a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not quite done just yet. I do have one more question for you, and it's actually something I do for everyone who comes on. I ask them one simple question, sort of unrelated from anything we've talked about today. So if you're good to do that, we can.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Laura, if you could wish for anything in the world, what would it be? And it can be absolutely anything. And we'll take a second to think on it.
Wow, that is an excellent question.
Thank you. Yeah, it can be absolutely anything. It could be a Tesla. It could be whatever you'd like.
I think what I would really wish for is just equality across the board.
I like that.
Equality for women in the workplace, equality for different marginalized communities, equality for money distribution, just, you know, equality, I think. And it's such a general thing, but I think in terms of even disabilities and things like that, it's I think what this world is really lacking.
Dignity for one and dignity for all, right?
Exactly.
Laura, thank you so much. I want to get you to plug everything you've got going on for the listener who's listening to this podcast right now. How can they reach you? What have you got coming up? What would you like to promote?
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram at RECWITHLAURA. One of my biggest things on Instagram is being transparent and just being open about my own mental health in the rec field and off the rec field. That's the best place to reach me. And what do I have going on? Stay tuned, I guess. Stay tuned.
I'm on the hook. I'm waiting. I love it. Laura, thank you so much for coming on today. It really means the world. Thank you so much.
No problem. Take care, Brandon.